Every human being poops. You do. I do. Your ancestors did too. But that raises a bizarre question nobody really talks about. What did the very first humans do after they pooped? Think about it. There was no toilet paper, no bidet, no bathroom, no parents saying, "Hey, you forgot to clean yourself." There were no books explaining hygiene, no civilization, and definitely no instruction manual called Times How to Survive Your First Bathroom Trip. So what happened? Did prehistoric humans simply walk away? At first, that sounds surprisingly possible. These people had bigger problems. They had to find food, avoid predators, survive injuries, make fire, hunt animals, and survive environments that could kill them at any moment. Why would anyone care about something as ordinary as cleaning themselves? But here's where the mystery gets interesting. Those same humans figured out how to control fire. They created tools. They hunted together. They built shelters. They learnt which plants were safe to eat and which ones could kill them. So could humans really have ignored a problem that every person would face again and again throughout their entire life? Probably not. The problem is, we weren't there to see what they did. Prehistoric humans didn't leave behind a bathroom manual. They didn't write, "Step 1, poop. Step 2, clean yourself. Step 3, wash hands." So, how can archaeologists possibly know how ancient humans handled hygiene? The answer begins with something surprisingly disgusting. Poop. More specifically, ancient poop. Archaeologists have discovered preserved human feces, sometimes called coprolites, containing tiny parasite eggs. And those microscopic eggs are incredibly valuable. They can tell scientists what people ate, what parasites infected them, and even provide clues about how ancient communities lived. Imagine something you would normally flush away becoming a scientific time capsule thousands of years later. But there was a problem. Parasite eggs could prove that ancient humans were using toilets or designated places to poop. They could tell researchers that people were living with parasites, but they couldn't answer the biggest question. What did people use to clean themselves? So archaeologists had to look somewhere else, and this is where things get fascinating. Instead of searching for one magical prehistoric version of toilet paper, researchers started looking at a much bigger question. How do humans solve everyday problems when modern technology doesn't exist? And there wasn't one answer. There were hundreds. Because prehistoric humans didn't live in one environment. They lived beside rivers, in forests, on grasslands, in deserts, in mountains, and in freezing climates. So why would everyone use the same cleaning method? If you lived beside a clean river, water was an obvious solution. If you lived in a forest, soft leaves or plant material could be available. In colder environments, snow could be used. In rocky areas, smooth stones could become useful. The environment itself provided the tools. And this reveals something important about ancient human hygiene. There probably wasn't one universal method. There was adaptation. Humans looked at the resources around them and figured out what worked. But then something changed. Humans stopped moving constantly. They began forming permanent settlements. Villages became larger. Villages became towns. Towns became cities. And eventually, civilizations appeared. Now humans weren't just solving hygiene problems individually. Entire societies were solving them. And some of those solutions were surprisingly advanced. Take ancient Rome. When people imagine Roman toilets, they probably picture something primitive and disgusting. But Roman public toilets could actually be remarkably sophisticated. Some had channels of running water beneath the seats that helped carry waste away. But what did people use instead of toilet paper? Here's where Roman hygiene gets seriously weird. They used a tool called a tersorium, essentially a sponge attached to a stick. And, in some public facilities, these tools could be shared. Yes, a communal sponge. By modern standards, that's horrifying. But historically, it shows something important. Humans weren't ignoring hygiene. They were actively designing systems and tools to deal with it. And Rome wasn't even the only civilization with surprising evidence. In ancient China, archaeologists discovered wooden hygiene sticks dating back roughly 2,000 years. Some preserved material on these sticks contained microscopic parasite eggs. For archaeologists, this was incredibly valuable, because now they weren't just guessing that people had dedicated cleaning tools. They had physical evidence. A tiny object had survived for nearly 2,000 years and revealed something about an extremely ordinary part of ancient life. And that brings us to one of the biggest misconceptions in toilet history. Toilet paper didn't invent hygiene. Humans had been cleaning themselves for an incredibly long time before toilet paper became common. Toilet paper was simply another solution. In some cultures, paper became popular. In others, water remained the preferred method. And even today, billions of people around the world use water rather than toilet paper. So there was never a moment when humanity suddenly went, "Congratulations everyone, we have invented cleanliness." It was much slower than that. Generation after generation, humans discovered small improvements, a better tool, a better source of water, a better toilet, a better way to remove waste, a better way to stay clean. And eventually, those tiny improvements became habits, traditions, and technologies that we now take completely for granted. So, what did the first humans do after they pooped? We don't know exactly. There probably wasn't one answer. And we may never know what the very first person used. But one thing seems increasingly clear. They probably didn't just walk away, because this story isn't really about poop. It's about one of the most important abilities humans have ever developed: adaptation. Our ancestors faced a problem. They found something around them that could help. The next generation improved it. Then another generation improved it again. And thousands of years later, we ended up with toilets, plumbing, toilet paper, bidets, and modern sanitation. The tools changed. The technology changed. The civilizations changed. But the basic human instinct never did. When humans face a problem, we figure out how to solve it. Even when that problem is what to do after you poop.